Problem number 9 asks us to evaluate the arc sine at negative square root of 2 over 2. So this says find an angle between negative pi over 2 and pi over 2 whose sine value is negative square root of 2 over 2. The answer for that, if you think about your circle, is going to be an angle of negative pi over 4. If you say 7 pi over 4, is technically wrong because the output has to be between negative pi over 2 and pi over 2. So you want your angle to be in that range. Problem number 10 has us determine the cosine of the arc sine of 1/2. Well, the arc sine of 1/2, that's a 30-degree angle. And the cosine at 30 degrees is square root of 3 over 2. Let's circle my answers here as we go through. Problem number 11 asks us to give the domain and the range of the arc sine. Well, the domain of the arc sine, the only numbers that I can plug into arc sine are between negative 1 and 1. And the range, the output, is between negative pi over 2 and pi over 2. For problem number 12, we're asked to sketch a graph of the arc cosine. So let's go ahead and draw that guy out. So we're looking between 0. So on this y-axis, I can only be between 0 and pi. The x-axis, I can only be between negative 1 and positive 1, because the domain of the arc cosine function is between negative 1 and 1, so these are the x values, and the range of it is between 0 and pi. These are the y values. So let's go ahead and get some of these values. When x, so I'm looking at the arc cosine of x or theta, whatever variable you want to use. So if this is negative 1, so at negative 1, the angle value is pi. So if I plugged in negative 1 in here, my solution out, so for example, if I went arc cosine of negative 1, the angle whose cosine is negative 1 is pi. So that means that the ordered pair negative 1, pi, negative 1, pi is on the graph of my arc cosine. If we grab some other values in here, let's say 0. 0 is going to be at pi over 2. And if we grabbed 1, the cosine value there, if we grabbed 1, the cosine value there is 0. So what I've got is this curve right here. So those are problems 10 through 12.